Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the Lost Begotten channel. And today, we might be doing a little headlines later on, but first we're going to be doing something completely different. And that is pretty obvious. We're going to be talking about fish tanks. Fish tanks, aggravating fish tanks, make you go broke. You don't see fish tanks taking Oriental women to Italian restaurants. Yeah. They might be giants, but then again, they might just be a weird band of some sort. That's a song. That's a band. That's a kind of a joke. Only it's not funny. Oh yes, we're gonna go not just from the basics from what you can see on any YouTube video from, your average reefer who's done this for a couple of years, but I'm gonna try to tell you what a beginner should need to learn from me, as if you were coming into my future store and I was trying to get you into the hobby from the get-go, and you didn't have a lot of patience, didn't have a lot of time, didn't have a lot of money, but you still wanted that Zen experience. You still wanted some sort of stress relief in your life and just a nice, pretty thing to look at that you built. Like, not everybody can fill their house with paintings and instruments, and not everybody wants like a giant car collection or boats or stuffed deer heads and bass and whatever people usually put in their houses. Bonsai trees, rock gardens, waterfalls, different things to make them happy. There's a lot of different ways you can turn a hobby into a style for your way of living. But there's few things that encompass so many aspects of peacefulness, of Zen, of understanding of nature, and just few things as beautiful to decorate your home with as a saltwater aquarium. So I really like, not only just because basically keeping a reef tank makes everyone just the right level of environmentalist, but I think everyone deserves that experience and deserves to have, the most beautiful part of nature in their home. I mean, at this point, most of the specimens that are taken, and there's a lot of phobias and a lot of stigmas with saltwater reef keeping. And to that point, at this stage in the hobby, in the industry, most of what you can go buy in stores was grown in an aquaculture facility. Very little of what you can get in a store was taken from the wild. And most of the places that are still taken from the wild supply, aquaculture facilities, or you're talking type of fish that you shouldn't be buying to begin with. And while a lot of places in general, stores and stuff, stay away from that kind of stuff, the fact of the matter is, there's always going to be an exotic trade in any animal hobby. And as far as reef keeping goes, in America, I don't know about Europe, but in America, it's very hard to find at least anyone overtly trading harmfully collected species. That is, species that are used, that people use cyanide to go to collect and stuff like that. Most people take pride in either having naturally collected fish, bred fish, or locally collected fish, like off of the coast of Florida. For a while, a lot of stuff was in from Hawaii, but actually that was made illegal last I checked. The major area that people were catching the huma huma pahuma, or the Picasso triggerfish that I used to love. But say, for instance, the Finding Nemo star Dory that Ellen DeGeneres voiced over, that's called a Hippolyta tang or something. Right? It's a hippocampus tang. It's called a royal blue tang. I forget the freaking Latin name. I can't believe I forgot the freaking Latin name. I feel so embarrassed. But anyways, the royal blue. It's black and blue. It's got a nice little yellow triangle on its fin. What you don't know about Dory from looking at her is that she's a surgeonfish, and surgeonfish have these massive protruding scalpels on their dorsal. I mean, on their tail area, right between the anal and dorsal fins and the tail fin itself, on that muscly part, right, kind of like where they can whack something with it. And what surgeonfish generally do is defend a territory with those spikes and graze algae. Um, Basically, keeping the cycle of life ongoing in the ocean. There's a lot of different algae grazers that need to be, maintained species. As much as we interfere with the ocean, like, we need to maintain these species as if the entire ocean was our aquarium. And that's another reason why I think more people should get into the hobby, is so that they know exactly how bad we're fucking it up, and so they know what exactly can be done about it. And a grazer like a surgeonfish, they kick the crap out of each other, but when it comes to like tuna or sharks that eat other feeder fish, they're a good alternate diversion. Um, Basically, if we're going to eat a few different species of fish, we need to make sure there's other species of fish that size, so that the predators of those fish don't try to compete with us, so that they have other things to eat besides the one or few fishes that we eat. So that, and well, if there's anything that's been over collected, it's been blue tangs, because since Finding Nemo's come out, while Percula clownfish and Accelerus clownfish, the ones that look like Nemo, okay, the clownfish, those are easy to breed, okay, relatively easy to breed. Accelerus a lot more than the true perks that I breed. But I think there's been 3 institutions so far that have bred the royal blue tang. So, you, being a beginner, need to be wary of what fish to buy. The royal blue tang, not one of them. Clownfish, go look at all the different clownfish that are available. There are all different price points of clownfish available. There are all different color patterns available. You will probably find a clownfish that you like, and a clownfish is a great beginner fish. And every single one of them will more than likely be happier in an aquarium than they will in the wild. See, let me just get rid of the yesterday's talking points before I get on with the broadcast. Yesterday we talked about Donald the Mongol was brown-nosing Beijing. And, instead of standing up for normal American principles, he's just basically trying to play people against each other in kind of a cowardly way. He's kind of betrayed Russia by canceling the ExxonMobil deal, and reopening Arctic drilling, which is kind of like a step of concession that we were at with the Obama administration, trying not to provoke Russia even further, being like, okay, we understand that that's your coastline up there, we would give you that, and we will give you that. We're showing you that can be yours if you stay the fuck out of Europe. Okay. So now he's basically said to Russia, well, you better take what you can get. because that's what we're going to do now, unfortunately. And to that end, because of the park protests, the purge of the South Korean administration that had negotiated the THAAD system and our current military standpoint in general with the Obama administration, those big protests and everything that all seemed really instigated to me, all of that makes me believe that this whole North Korea provocation is a trap. And we wouldn't be warned about said trap if that protest and everything hadn't happened. And we still had the trustworthy administration in place in South Korea. So it's really kind of precarious. And we need to be very careful about that. But if you want to learn more about that, go watch yesterday's broadcast from the PM time, I believe it was. So today we're going to have the wrong thing up. Oh boy. There we go. Alright. Now I got the right thing up. You got the right thing, baby. I just sang New Kids in the Block. Really? I just did. And I need a moment to forgive myself. Okay. Alright, so. Now, first to answer your question, Carlos, that's a very good question. Before you get a saltwater fish, understand that you are buying a pet. And like any pet, you need to research that individual animal before you buy it. Saltwater fish are not things that you can impulse buy. He says a little loudly so his wife can hear. Fortunately for her, I know how to adapt to, the fish that she wound up wanting. But the point is, after 30 years of experience, I've already had most of the damn fish there are out there. Most of the fish under $60 anyways. I've never really spent a whole lot of money on fish. And most of the more expensive fish I've had were gifts. So, anyways, first thing I guess we should talk about is, should you have a saltwater aquarium at all? Okay, like, so you already have an aquarium, you're thinking about a saltwater aquarium. But you need to ask yourself, are you missing the point entirely? Why do you want this fish tank? Like, is it just decoration to you? Or is this meant to be a different thing to think about? Is it a zen? Is it your own personal bonsai tree? Is it, do you recognize that it's an ecosystem? Do you recognize the value of it as a life form? The whole thing as a life form? Okay. If not, you might want to get some goldfish. Okay. Because a saltwater aquarium, in order to even make just a simple clownfish happy, it has to be an ecosystem. It has to be bonsai. It has to be a miniature environment that has all aspects of the natural environment. And while that sounds horribly complicated at first, what you realize is that this is actually something you just need to allow to happen. And it will happen on its own. And all you need to do is just help take care of it. Basically, you need to clean out the poo from time to time. Okay. And it's not like, you don't have to go in the aquarium and scoop up the poo with your hand. You do most of this with hoses and, vacuum siphon type stuff. If you get any fish poo in your mouth, you're doing it wrong. Okay, that's all I'm saying. It's possible to make that kind of mistake. Just to warn you, but no, it's easily avoidable. But let me just put it this way: my personal belief that it is that if you are out there trying to spend money to have something that nobody else has, to have something to look at, to get laid or whatever, okay, don't buy a fucking flat screen TV and put a fake aquarium on there. You know, it'd be just as good for you. Aquariums are for people who first and foremost appreciate nature. So this is a way to appreciate nature in your house. And it's a way to grow a lot of nature from a little bit of nature. And I want to explain how to best do that in a little while. And how that doesn't mess up the environment at this stage. A while back, there were a lot of very detrimental collection methods that were running rampant. And I'm sure there are still in some places, in some markets. But in America, what you have is a pretty self-regulated hobby. Because, you know, the people who do this want to be able to keep doing it. And none of them are stupid. So there you go. So the first thing you want to decide, knowing all this, knowing that this is it's a complicated thing to observe, but it's not necessarily a complicated thing to maintain. If you can maintain a car on a basic level, like if you know when to get your oil changed and shit like that, you know, that you need gas, that kind of thing, you can probably do this. You can probably pull this off. It's really not difficult. Okay. It's an enjoyable learning experience. And definitely something you actually can half-ass to a certain extent and learn as you go and learn from your mistakes. And in fact, I kind of recommend that. I kind of recommend everybody go with a cheap setup at first and learn how things go wrong. Okay, because not only do you not spend too much, not overkill, but you give yourself the opportunity to learn what the cycle actually looks like for yourself. You get to learn like what polluted shit water looks like and how long it takes for that to get restored and how long for stuff to grow and how long it takes for a small amount of water to stagnate when it's just got mediocre filtration and nutrient replenishment. You'll just over time, just having to focus on a little tiny setup, you'll learn a lot about not just the hobby, but you'll learn a lot about the world. 75% in it, water, oceans, in fact. So you'll have a piece of the ocean, okay? You want to really learn a lot? Go out and work on your car. Don't wash your hands. Put it in the tank. Before you get fish, obviously. Before you get anything in there. While you're still cycling it. You want to do an experiment? Level the playing field. Make what you have at home what they have out there. Just while it cycles one time. Get a dirty hand in there and see how much algae and red slime and shit blooms. If there was anything alive in there, it wouldn't be. It's a good thing to learn. Another thing is just overfeeding. Okay. You learn about these things called phosphates and nitrates. Sound familiar? They should. They're fertilizers. You know those things that they have running off in rivers all over the world, right into the oceans? You learn to test for those. Those are two of the most basic things you want to test for once you're starting out. Once you learn what level on the test result looks like what level of shittiness as far as algae and, brown and slime in your water, eventually you don't need to spend money on test kits. And, there are stores that will test your water for you. You can actually go in there, every few months or so during your first couple of years in the hobby and pay them to test the water for you. Probably get a more accurate result and learn what this level of pollution looks like, what making it better looks like, how much effort per volume it takes to make it better. And you understand that the world we live in can be sustained if we just fucking bother. First we got to bother to learn. But that's why I'm making the video. So anyways, see if I have any. Oh my god, am I out now? Oh, no. Oh, we're good. I can sustain the broadcast uninterrupted. So anyways, by the way, howdy Carlos, and thanks for your question there. Just wanted to get right to answer it. I forgot to be all polite. And hello Maximo. Ellen, I went to a lot of different schools. One of the schools I went to, the one that her and I went to together, was actually the school that Ellen DeGeneres went to. Down in New Orleans there. I got 15 seconds of airtime on the Ellen show back in the day when Jamie Foxx was promoting his album on there. And that is the most embarrassing thing I've ever done in my life. But anyways. I've never actually met Ellen in person. But like, I really have like a vast appreciation for Ellen DeGeneres. I saw something recently, like there's some kind of new fucking tabloid thing that she's revealed or something that our fans are all upset about. And I didn't even fucking bother to look and see what it was. Because I don't want, like, almost don't even want to know. Just like, because I love her to death. And it's like, just why bother? So, g'day, Neville. Neville's driving, so he wants to hog the comments. Hey, Lacey. How are you? I'm still waiting to see any more adventures that Lacey live broadcast, because I still don't, like, I keep forgetting to ask what the hell that was about. Like, what? I'm just like, I sit down on the couch, my wife's watching a dark screen. She's like, it's Lacey. What? And then it was over. I'm like, what the fuck was that about? So, lingering question. Yeah. And, you're just crazy. That makes sense. Perfectly acceptable response, I suppose. So anyways, before I get too tired and start to drift, let me go ahead and put some freaking music on and refill my coffee while y'all sit there and try to stare at my mad science laboratory. What do you even call that? That's just utter chaos, isn't it? E major. You might want to do A.
Driving at you, baby, at your brain. I'ma try real hard. Play my cards right, baby, not at all. Here it comes, coming to you. I'm finding, baby, what's deep in you. I'ma try and to find myself in this great world with this bad hell. Trying to find new too in the midst of the elves I see. Then I know the Holy Ghost, but it tries to get me close. I'm going to a place where I won't find nobody but you. I'm trying to not lose my cool, but it's a coming and I can't stop loving you. I can't stop loving you. I can't stop loving you. Peace of mind deep inside, but it's coming, baby, and you can't hide. I'm trying to find you where some baby out with the long brown hair. Come on, girl, come to me. I want you, baby, more than you can see. I'm coming hard. It's a coming, baby, you can't stop. Baby, can't stop loving you. I know, baby, no, I can't stop loving you. I can't, baby, no, can't stop loving you. I can't stop loving you.
Alright.
They keep running, but they're running too slow.
My coffee is no longer malfunctioning.
I know why.
It actually it kind of did have a little bit of a secondary malfunction because I forgot where the shit. Nothing like making coffee and sitting down. Coffee, and it's bitter as fuck. So, here we have my cute little aquarium shop I hope to own soon. And I have made a list. I've made some graphics. I'm going to make some more graphics while I, use them to demonstrate what the hell I'm talking about. And I might make a little basic cost list while we're doing all this. And what I want to show you is essentially your basic options as far as what you can do to make an aquarium that's worth making. Okay. Now, before we go there, there are on the market today, that's just apparently what dictates the categories, not the science, but the market. There are 3 different main types of systems to choose from. What is called a reef tank, what is called a FOWLER system, or a fish only with rock. Apparently didn't need to put the R, it's just FOWLER. FOWLER. It's a typo for the sake of pronunciation. And you have a Nano setup. Nano have like a Pico something or whatever. It's like even smaller than a Nano, but it's just because they acknowledged that Nanos were too small, so now the Nano that's too small is just called a Pico. I don't know. But anyway, first of all, Nanos are for people with other aquariums. Okay, it's not for beginners. It's not for experts. All right, it's for people with other aquariums. A Nano tank is for somebody who has an ample supply of salt water that's being filtered by a real aquarium that can just go in there and swap it out once a day. Otherwise, a Nano aquarium, any small aquarium, is just going to turn to shit really quick. You do, of course, have the option of doing a 1-gallon water change on a Nano every day, but then you get it there into the expert level and an extreme amount of inconvenience. And you'll rarely find someone willing to put that much effort into a very small system with very little visual reward. I guess would be the cold hard way of looking at it. I mean, why put all that effort into something you have to sit up close to? Chances are, if you have a headache, you're not even going to be able to get in there and look at it. You want something at least big enough to look at while you have a headache. That's just my opinion. But I have headaches. So, now, so your basic choices, and Nano is really subjective. Like some people would call a 29-gallon Nano. I call a 29-gallon a freaking fish tank. It's perfectly adequate size for a saltwater aquarium, in my opinion. As long as you do it right. But there are better ways, and I'm going to discuss the best ways, or at least what I think is the best ways, after I discuss the 2 basic options as far as stocking goes. And that's really the difference between reef tank and FOWLER is stocking. Okay. And what it comes down to is, do you want to keep the types of fish that destroy coral? Okay. Otherwise, you can get a reef tank. And there are even some types of coral that can go in a FOWLER tank, like this leather right here. There's very few fish that are going to mess with that, and it's not a very delicate coral at all. You can put that and a FOWLER tank. Often a FOWLER tank will start growing sponges and feather dusters and all kinds of little crap off of the rock that you put in there. So, you know, the overlap isn't so much that one is a reef and one is not a reef. A FOWLER tank set up properly should be a beautiful reef. It should just be a different type of reef because it has a different type of fish. Okay. And those fish are angelfish, parrotfish, wrasses, triggerfish, and generally speaking, predatory type fish like lionfish, groupers, and sometimes even sharks, octopuses, that kind of thing. Things that like to eat either, you know, your cleanup crew that you'd have in a reef tank, little crabs and stuff, other fish, or especially corals. I have my Aptasia eating filefish. Until I had the bleaching problem during the hottest point of last summer, or whatever it was, the unexpected heat wave during the fall, actually. I had a bunch of bird's nests growing, and even that little tiny Aptasia eating filefish couldn't keep him in a tank with bird's nest. That thing tear that crap up, okay, and would literally just go and just and you'd see just a finger of it fall. And yeah, at that point I said, oh no, and I gathered it all and moved it into the other tank. But the problem is, then Aptasia takes over that tank. So really, you want to get your if you want to experiment with an Aptasia eating fish, do that before you get your hard corals. But anyways, also known as a bristletail filefish, if you want to get a full size one. Pygmy Aptasia eating filefish is what we have. Little tiny guy, this big. So anyways, in your reef tank, you are stuck with either certain species of fish or a limited number per volume of fish like angelfish and butterfly fish. You really probably don't want a parrotfish. You really probably don't want a filefish, okay? Because these are things that are going to mess with your coral, all right? But something like a flame angelfish that'll nip at the coral polyp. If you have a big enough tank with a lot of hard corals, you know, like my old tank with all the Montipora, flame angel was shitting in tall cotton in there. Just had all kinds of little corals to nip at and pick at. But that fish got ick because I didn't have the temperature right. I'm going to talk about that in a second when we get back to the other screen there. So really, are you going after a specific type of fish? Okay. Do you want big fish swimming around? Okay. Most big fish don't do well in reef tanks. The only type of big fish that usually does well in reef tanks needs proportionally even bigger reef tanks than most, and those are surgeonfish, like dory. If you want to set up a 90-gallon reef tank or a FOWLER tank, you can have a dory, but just be warned, they are ick carriers when you get them from the wild, especially. And they're very hard to get, the captive bred ones, which, you know, there's many people, myself included, who are trying to alleviate that problem. But there's lots of different tangs or surgeonfish that you can keep in your reef tank that will delicately graze around the corals and keep the reefs nice and clean, just like they do in the wild. Now, for me to sit here and go fish by fish and tell you which ones that you can and can't get, This video would be hours long, and I just can't go into it. So, just a few of the popular ones. But butterfly fish, angelfish, they like to nip at polyps. Surgeonfish, also known as tangs, like a yellow tang, okay, blue tang. Those will very, very delicately graze around at the algae. But don't have a shitty looking aquarium and think I need to get a surgeonfish to take care of all this algae. Surgeonfish are very prone to disease when irritated by the same chemicals, those nitrates and phosphates, that promote algae growth. So, to a certain extent, you have to take care of the problem first, and then you get the surgeonfish in there, and that will maintain the cleanliness. Okay? Getting a surgeonfish to address an algae-ridden aquarium, you're more than likely just going to kill the surgeonfish. You need to do water changes. When in doubt, do water changes. Water changes, water changes, water changes. You want to keep an aquarium in the beginning? Make yourself a store. Okay? Just decide on a store. That's the most important thing to start out with. Decide on a local fucking fish store that has water. Buy yourself a big jug. Freshwater, saltwater. One of each. And you want to wind up going to that store once a week, at least, and filling up those jugs. If you have a big tank, you want two of each. If you have a really big tank, you want to get your own RODI system, and you probably don't want to make that big of a leak. You want to keep it around 20 to 40 gallons, and you can just use one or two jugs of each. Go to that fish store once a week, fill them back up. And depending on your climate, your evaporation, and how much you start out overfeeding in the beginning, you'll have to do different amounts of water changes. You don't need to worry about chemicals. You don't need to worry about test kits. They'll test your water for you. Okay. But whatever chemical you're lacking, whatever's wrong with your water as far as testing goes, the solution for any of those problems is water change. Okay. Water changes don't just reduce the amount of poo in the water. They don't just reduce the amount of decomposing, chemicals, ammonia, nitrates, all the different things that irritate the fish that dissolve into the water, basically equivalent to a cat litter box odor in the water, irritating the fish, making them feel sick, making them more prone to illness. But all the trace minerals that not only fish absorb to maintain the health of their vibrant colors, but also the corals and even the rocks, all the little critters that kind of grow out of the rocks, they all steadily absorb all these different trace salts out of the water. Trace salts like, oh look, I have my bottle right here from yesterday. The calcium chloride, cobalt chloride, lithium chloride, magnesium chloride, nickel, potassium, sodium, strontium, zinc, copper, bromine, all kinds of stuff. Iodine, iron, it's taken out of the water. What are you going to do? You're going to go and test for each one of those chemicals and replace them one by one? Fuck all that. Water change. Mix up some new salt water with just the right mix already. Take some old crappy water out, put some fresh new water in. Key to the water change is do it slow so you don't shock everything. And if you're doing a water change once a week, you only need to change a little bit of water, just a few gallons, that's all. 5 gallons tops. On a 40-gallon setup, 5 gallons is fine, especially if you're doing it once a week. You're going to have a beautiful setup, a healthy setup. That's literally what this is right there. That's 40 gallons with 5 gallons changed once a week. That's what that looks like right there. So, before I move on to the question, to sump or not to sump, I want to talk about what that last little point right there means. Overkill devalues experience. When you're first getting into this hobby, and that's kind of what I've been talking about here. When you're first getting into this hobby, don't go buy the thing that will do it for you. Don't pay someone to do it for you. You're better off screwing it up with a $4 damsel, okay? And letting that slack and letting that fish get stressed out and slowly learning how to make that one little fish happy, and then moving on to a better setup, and giving that fish to your kid. Don't put your crappy damsel in your reef tank like I did. Don't ever do that. Leave that. Maybe move it from a 10-gallon to a 20-gallon if you want it to be happy. But 10-gallon tank with a $4 damsel, 3 pieces of live rock, you're good to go. And what you'll learn is what to do with algae, what to do with how crappy everything looks, what to do with stagnant spots, how to run a protein skimmer if you want to add a little $30 protein skimmer, which I highly recommend. Even on a 10-gallon tank, it'll do a world of difference. And you can learn how easy it is to overdose something like this. In a 10-gallon tank, $100 investment tops. How much can you screw up? You can't screw up much. You can't lose a lot there. Even if you do screw it all up, you still have what you have. And if you killed the $4 damsel, you've really kind of accomplished something. Because it's a fucking $4 damsel. The reason why they're $4 is because they're prolific. The reason why they're prolific is because they live anywhere. Very, very hardy fish. Not impossible to kill, but you almost have to try. You almost have to try. They're kind of like the black sheep of the hobby. That's why I talk jokingly about them. We have our blue damsel. Pisses me the fuck off. We love it. As a family, we love it. I'm the yang of that particular involvement. That fish pisses me off. See, what it does is it starves Bruce. Every time Bruce has some food that he's about to get, the damsel knows it somehow and goes right in front of him and fucking eats the food. I can literally put some frozen mysis in there and feed the damsel elsewhere. Okay? All kinds of food in the tank. And Bruce will slowly make to where I put the mysis. Right as he gets there, the damsel ignores all the other fucking food floating in the tank and goes and picks off all the fucking mysis right before Bruce can get to it. Saltwater fish are assholes. Okay? It's not just the blue devil damsel. That's not peculiar behavior when it all comes down to it. Okay? It's very cutthroat in the ocean. And one of the reasons why you want to keep a saltwater aquarium is because when you decide on a fish, and the reason why I say you have to think of that fish as a pet, is because you have to understand that you're kind of rescuing that pet. And it's your duty to provide a better environment than the wild for that pet, just like any other pet. A pet is something that probably couldn't take care of itself very well in the wild. Clownfish, for instance, is a dumbass, okay? Or an asshole. Most saltwater fish fall into these categories, okay? I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit on this before I get into some or not to some. This is kind of important to understand, okay? You have your dumbass fish and you have your asshole fish. There's really few and far between. And it has nothing to do with whether or not they're predatory. It has nothing to do with whether or not they're friendly, really. In fact, dumbass fish and asshole fish can both make very good hand-tamed pets. You know, like if you want to get a puffer fish or a triggerfish, you know, pufferfish is a dumbass, triggerfish is an asshole. They both make great pets. They will both come up to the tank and let you pet their fucking snouts and let you feed them by hand, and they will take the food, not your finger, okay? Usually. But a pufferfish will clumsily attack a crab. Triggerfish will find whatever it wants to eat and accomplish it somehow. Okay? And some of your meaner triggerfish, like, okay, say for instance, there's a fish that it doesn't like anymore. But it's not the kind of fish that triggerfish can just eat. Triggerfish will take its eyes, and then a fin or two, and then its tail, and then just kind of go at the side of it. Because, you know, it was too big to eat just normally. But it's a triggerfish, so it's an asshole. Pufferfish, you'll never have that problem. Pufferfish, it'll be, if this fish is small enough, it'll eat it. If it's not small enough, it won't fuck with it ever. Because it's just a dumbass fish. Okay? Now, clownfish, same way. You can have a dumbass clownfish, or you can have an asshole clownfish. What you don't realize is that, more than likely, clownfish, damselfish, most of the fish that you're going to keep, the more innocent and cute and non-predatory they are, chances are the more they're assholes. Okay? Damselfish, perfect case in point. It's not suddenly ignoring all the other food and then going after those mysis that Bruce is about to get because those are the good mysis. It's not suddenly noticing those mysis because he's drawn its attention. It's trying to kill Bruce. It knows that it's trying to kill Bruce. It's trying to prevent it from eating so that it will die. Because it's an asshole. Okay? Clownfish do that to each other while they're growing up. Clownfish constantly kill each other while they're growing up. If there is not constant food falling in both of those fish's face, this one will say, you know, I really want all of this food, and I'm going to kill you because I want all this food. And it will chase you off and keep you from getting to the food until you die. Yeah. That blue devil damsel is waiting until Bruce almost makes it to his food, then going and making sure she eats all of it so Bruce will starve. Because Bruce is a very effective pod hunter. And pods are the natural thing that your saltwater fish will eat when your system becomes healthy. And I'll go into that in a few minutes. But basically, the damsel likes pods too. And Bruce is just eating pods all the damn time. And the damsel knows that. Damsel wants pods. Bruce is preventing it from getting the pods that it wants because it can't hunt as effectively as Bruce can. So the population has to increase before the damsel can get enough pods. So the damsel has decided it does not like Bruce. And wants to outcompete him so that it won't have to deal with him anymore. That's why it pisses me off, because I love Bruce. Unfortunately, 29 gallon. A 29 gallon is I didn't buy it for what it wound up getting used for. 29 gallon would be a great grow out tank, be a great water reserve tank, okay, for a multi-tank setup like that. Great grow out tank for baby clownfish. Not a good reef tank. I don't think I could catch Bruce if I tried to pull him out of there and put him in the sump for a while to fatten him up, to let the pods come back in that top tank. And I sure as hell couldn't catch that damsel. I would literally have to pull every rock out of that tank. And considering how deep it is, that's a hell of a task. And then there's Mai. Mai will cut a motherfucker. Anyways. Oscars are not saltwater fish, but they are assholes. Why would we love assholes? Assholes need love too. Well, when you think about it, dogs, cats, well, everybody's assholes to each other.
Midgets, motherfucking unicorns.
I don't know if y'all heard that. But yeah, like dogs fight, kill each other for food. Cats, same damn way. People just don't realize how intelligent fish actually are and how much of a social structure is actually, going on under there, under the water. And it's really, it can be fascinating. It really, really can be fascinating. It can piss you off when you make the wrong decision and you wind up with a aquarium that's too deep and bothersome to pull a bunch of fish out of. But anyways, so to sump or not to sump? That is the question. Suppose I'll try to answer it. Now, don't need music. I have, to assist with this discussion, for your viewing displeasure, a crappy MS Paint graphic. Everybody give it up for the crappy MS Paint graphic of science. Woohoo, yay! Alright, and I just realized the crappy MS Paint graphic of science is a little too wide. It's kind of unnecessary. So I'm going to do like that. I'm going to do this with it. Also with MS Paint, brought to you by Carl's Jr. Is Carl's Jr. an actual restaurant? Brought to you by Carl's Jr. While I was prepping this outstanding studio graphic suite for you, I was listening to the movie Idiocracy while they were watching it in the other room there. Love that freaking
Yes,
movie.
it is.
Lacey says yes. Oh, my wife said yes, it is at the same time. So,
Apparently, they are owned by the same people who own Hardee's.
owned by the same people that own Hardee's. Very interesting.
They have a beer battered fish sandwich.
Okay, so anyways, here we have two basic setup options for your aquarium. One of these setup options is supposed to be a freshwater tank, and one of them is a proper saltwater aquarium. Does anybody know which one is which?
They got 3 locations in Louisiana and the rest are in Texas.
Okay, I'm over it.
I'm not. Shreveport.
What? It's a video about freaking aquarium stuff.
I'm talking about Charles Jr.
Are you hungry, dear? Jeez. I was just trying to make a joke brought to you by Carl's Jr.,
Which is located in Texas and North Louisiana.
which is located in Texas and North Louisiana, brought to you by Carl's Jr.
25 locations. 22 in Texas.
Okay. And now we're going to talk about aquariums, brought to you by Carl's Jr. Brando, the thirst quencher. It's got what plants crave.
Can't wait. That's all I feel like.
Anyways, okay. Can I focus now, please? Pretty please?
If you must.
I must. I must. I must increase. Never mind. So, who can guess which one is which? One of these is actually just a freshwater tank and should not be sold, or anybody who tells you that's a saltwater tank is lying to you, basically. You cannot keep happy saltwater fish in one of these tanks. You just can't. The one on the left. That's a freshwater tank. Okay? Even if it says Marine Reef 3000. Red Sea Magnesium Sulfide fucking Coral Volcano. Okay? I don't care. If it's just a tank with a filter on the back, oh, you got your work cut out for you. And you will at the very least need what's called an external refugium, an over-the-back refugium, just to be what I consider to be a responsible fish owner. Okay, so what you need is an over-the-back filter with a little pre-filter sponge on it, kind of like I have in my tanks. And you just put a bunch of rocks in there, keep the flow nice and low, and you start acclimating pods right into those rocks. And then that becomes kind of like that sump at the bottom down there. But you're actually going to spend more money and wind up with a much crappier, harder to maintain setup if you want to do that effectively. Yes, Maximo, the right one is the right one for saltwater. Now, you may be thinking that these are a couple of giant aquariums. Nope. What you're looking at here is two equal volume setups. On the left, you have a 29 gallon with a CPR refugium on the back, kind of, roughly. And that little thing on the back right there cost about $230 just for that thing that hangs on the back right there. Okay. And you don't get to look at what's in it. You don't get to enjoy what's in it. To clean that out, if it clogs up, you have to take it the frick apart. And by volume, it is not providing nearly the benefit as the $10 10-gallon tank, or, depending on how you build the stand, you can just go ahead and increase the volume a little bit like I did in my home setup and buy two 20-gallon tanks. But here I have shown equal volumes. Okay, you're not going to fill up that bottom tank as much as the top tank. So a 20 plus a 30 equals 29 gallons. A 20 plus a 10 equals 29 gallons, not 30. Now, let's see, I have, I guess, a photo I can show you of my 10 on top of, a 20 on top of a 20. Right there. Okay. Simple stand construction, really. Depends on how aesthetically pleasing you want it to be, on how much you want to spend. But you can make it cabinet style. You can make it just straight 2x4s if you want. But I do recommend whatever you choose to do. If you're not good at that kind of thing, you need to consult someone who is. And first rule of building an aquarium stand is pre-drill your holes so the wood doesn't split. Definitely want to pre-drill your holes so the wood doesn't split. Anyway, so as you can see on the left, you have an intake tube going into a filter box. There's many different types of little box filters you can put on the back of an aquarium. Some of them more effective than others. You can see one hanging on the back of this aquarium that isn't set up. That's an aqua clear filter. And you can see a $25 eBay light. And you can find that eBay light still to this day. It's got a little blue mode and it's got a daytime mode. Switches on the right. It's not automated or anything. It's not compatible with any automation setup. But it's $25 and it's a light that'll, decent amounts of coralline algae and macroalgae in a FOWLER setup, or it could augment the lighting like a proper coral life fluorescent light. If you wanted to have a deeper aquarium, you could add this light to it. But I wouldn't put this by itself. I've actually had negative reactions from anemones. Anemones, though. Bird's nest corals grew fine under this light. Bird's nest corals love this light. Anemones, not so much. That's $25 eBay light. People think you have to pay $300 for a freaking light setup. There you go, $25. You got a reef tank light. That filter on the back, that's $30. The protein skimmer that I'd add to it, that's another $30. But instead of hanging a filter over the back, you can get what's called an overflow box, or you can have your fish tank drilled. If you go to a local aquarium guy, like one of the guys who goes out and services other people's tanks, he might have a used tank, okay, with the hole and the plumbing already drilled, okay. And what I'm talking about is, like on this picture here, if you look in the top left corner, you can see a PVC reducer. That's exactly what that is. My overflow for that tank was a PVC reducer and nothing more. The aqua clear I was using on the back of that was just to run ChemiPure, a type of carbon. I didn't really have any actual filtration to speak of on that thing. The only reason I had that filter on there, like I said, was to run ChemiPure, which was it's basically something that absorbs phosphates and other toxins from the water. The particular type of ChemiPure I used was a specific type that was a new one that came out that said it absorbed the phosphates, and I was having a little bit of a problem with red slime algae in my sump. But stagnation was the real thing that I should have addressed. And stagnation is the one that I'm going to cover when I get done with this graphic here. Okay. So on the right side, the little green box at the top represents the overflow. Whether or not you have it drilled like this and have some cheap PVC pipe going straight through the bottom of the tank on a bulkhead, or going through the back of the tank on a bulkhead at an elbow, I think was actually how this one was done. You don't want to do that with smaller tanks, but what you can do is go on eBay and for about 40 bucks, get yourself an overflow basket. And that is what you see in the corner back there, that blue box. And you see that curved tube going from that other box behind the aquarium. Basically, there's one box that sits inside of the tank, and that siphons into another box that sits right outside of the tank. And that has a little overflow in it that goes to a drain tube that goes into your bottom tank. Okay? And all that does, the reason why it has two different boxes is because there's a U-shaped tube that maintains your siphon. And when the water level drops because your pump shuts off during a power out or whatever, the box inside stops draining water from your tank without breaking the siphon of the U-tube. Then, when the pump starts again, the water level in your tank increases, the basket inside of the tank fills again, the siphon in the U-tube starts again, and everything's fine. You don't wind up with an overflowing top tank. Same principle as the drilled setup, only just a little more complicated for small tanks where you don't want to break the glass by attempting to drill. Like, okay, if I was to try to drill these guys, those are 10-gallon tanks with little baby clownfish in them. That would not go well for me. I would probably break 3 out of 5 tanks I tried to drill. So, get you a nano overflow box off of eBay, and you don't have to worry about breaking your little 10, 20-gallon tank and having to buy another one and trying over again. A 20-gallon tank, overflow box right in the back and the center, not in the way of anything, plenty of room for the water to flow around and behind it, good to go. Drains down into the bottom tank, 10-gallon or whatever. And then you have a return pump, shown as a little black box as well, and the blue tube being the return piping. This gives you options. When you have an over-the-back filter, chances are your overflow is your overflow, and it's just going into the tank wherever it goes into the tank. And the current is what it is. When you're using a return system, you can specifically mount that output wherever you want it. You can have it breaking up your power head's current like I do in my tank, or you can have it augmenting the power head's current and making it even stronger. Let me see if I have a picture that can more effectively explain that before I go to the graphic. No, I do not. Yeah, that's my current setup. So anyways, now the benefit of the tank on the right versus the tank on the left. I'm going to need to make a list. Okay, let's go ahead. Let me get a graphic blank spot up. And we can make a list here. Let me save as sump benefits. All right. Now we have a blank graphic of science. All right. Kind of. There we go. Yeah. Be that. Be there. Stuff. So the most obvious benefit that I think cannot be replaced, okay, for having a lower aquarium, a sump, a bottom aquarium that has a return to the top aquarium, is system shock. Okay. First and foremost, having a bottom aquarium allows you to avoid system shock when you're doing top off or when you're doing water changes. If you were to dump the fresh water into the top tank, you're risking not just stressing out fish or corals, but you can actually kill out little sections of bacteria that grow. Okay. So on a maintenance, from a maintenance standpoint, a sump is just a great thing. Okay. Now the second benefit, or the second most important benefit as far as the quality of life for the organisms that you're going to keep as pets, is surface skimming. And that is something that can be done other ways with power filters nowadays, but not nearly as reliably. Okay. And basically it's like this. As your fish secrete toxins, as they poo and pee into the water, as you feed your fish, as the food decomposes in the water, proteins build up. Okay. And the thing is about proteins is that they like to stick to air, which is why proteins wind up on the surface of the water in the form of like a oily film. And that's why protein skimmers inject air bubbles into the water to cause the proteins to foam up into a collection cup. Okay? Now, what this overflow box, this little green box in the back, does is constantly replenish the surface of the water, not only allowing those proteins to be processed, but allowing for oxygen exchange, which is another very important benefit of having a sump. Hard to replace the amount of oxygen from a basically a waterfall in a pipe hanging over the back of your aquarium. Okay? Oxygen exchange. Fish need to breathe. Their little gills need oxygen pumping through the water so they can pump it through their bloodstream. Now, one of the very important benefits that I was talking about earlier is the refugium aspect. Okay? And what it's a refugium for is called pods. And pods are just the little tiny crustaceans that live in the rockwork, in the reef, in the ocean. And they eat fish poo, they eat bacteria, they eat all kinds of undesirable stuff. They keep everything clean. And your fish like to eat them. I mean, they really, really like to eat them. You can actually get your pod population to the point where you notice your fish don't take much of the food that you offer it, and you can wind up mistakenly underfeeding, thinking that you're wasting food, and you wind up starving pods, causing a little mini cycle, and you wind up starving your fish a little because you think they're just being dicks and don't want to eat. No, there's a circle of life happening. They're letting food fall past them so that the pods can eat it. I'm not saying that they know that shit, but that's what's happening. It's not like that damsel taking the food from the other fish so that it'll die. When given the chance, most fish will consume their food source to extinction and fail to maintain a breeding population of pods, which is the whole point of having a sump to begin with. Because your fish, they'll get a hold of some pods and be like, oh, that was delicious. That's like fresh crawfish, man. That's like barbecue shrimp. Fresh off the Barbie. Yeah. Whatever. I'm from Texas. We don't say Barbie. Not unless it's, that thing hanging from your sister's ceiling fan. Well, she shouldn't have fucked with you. What? All boys in Texas know how to tie a noose. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, so yeah, pods will get eaten. They'll be like, that barbecue shrimp's good. I might have to go looking around just in case I missed any of them. Anybody forget to clean their plate? And they will go and hunt every pod in that top tank down to extinction. But in the bottom tank, see, you don't want a filter on that black pump. You want to make sure that you get a pump that's built for a reef tank, because it's going to have a different type of impeller than most pumps. It's not going to crush everything that goes through it. When those pods breed, their offspring are little tiny planktons, and they just flicker around in the water, and they go around with the current. And the pods will try to breed in caves where the current can't take away their little babies. But over time, and you can see it on my older videos of the pods in the sump, over time there's just going to be so damn many of those pods that pump is just going to be squirting babies by the hundreds every day back into that top tank. More than your fish can eat. And they're going to be able to grow and replenish themselves in the rockwork. Okay? Now, another very important aspect. Okay, and then let me just say this. Pods are a natural, healthy food source. And one of the biggest ways you can convince yourself that keeping an aquarium was the wrong idea is by having sick fish that die. Okay? The healthier your fish are as far as what they eat, the healthier they will be as far as everything else goes. The more they'll be able to withstand stressful conditions should you slack in any way, you know, whatever. All right. Now, another very, and I almost want to move this up on the list, but I'm not that freaking motivated. Because this is very important. One of the most important benefits of having a sump is temperature regulation. In fact, I'm going to write out regulation real big below it too. All right, there we go. Temperature regulation. It makes it nice and regular. So here's the deal. In the summertime versus the wintertime, and I'm sure up north, the wintertime versus the summertime, you have temperature spikes. Now, I'm going to focus on the summertime because that's what I know about. Because down here, the summertime is a problem because I live in the south. And when you keep in a saltwater aquarium, especially a reef tank, you have bright lighting. And if your tank is in a significant corner of your house, your top tank, where your bright lights are, trying to grow that coral, trying to keep that anemone nice and healthy, they cause a lot of heat. They put off a lot of heat. They can heat your tank up to the point of bleaching. Oh, just like mine did. And, you know, I made the mistake when I had the massive grow out system tied into my reef tank system like a dumbass. I had put a pre-filter on my return pump, and it got clogged up, and I didn't have enough return circulation. If I would have had enough return circulation, I might have actually prevented that problem. Ain't that a bitch? But I didn't. So my poor little corals bleached. Now see, what I should have had, ideally, and what I still don't have, because I don't have the equipment to diversify because I had old equipment that I kept from my old setup that I had double used on this setup, and I don't really have like a way to change around my lighting setup, and it's really kind of getting tedious and annoying. But I'm hanging on to the lighting setup that I have because those are some damn good ballasts, and I could power even bigger lights with them, and you know, one day I'll need that shit. So I'm not going to spend money replacing it. Anyways, ideally what you want is the bottom tank to be on at night and the top tank to be on during the daytime. So when that temperature is spiking during the day in the top tank, there'll be nice cool water coming down from the bottom. If the temperature is getting low at night in the bottom tank and the top tank, it'll be stabilized by that nice warm tropical water from the bottom tank. See how that works? In addition to that, the same exact effect, because it is governed by photosynthesis, you also have the benefit of pH or acidity regulation. Okay, I'm just going to put pH regulation. Now, pH is kind of hard to explain to land-loving animals. But metaphorically, I suppose it's a little bit like the dryness of the air to someone with really irritable skin. Okay? It's basically acidity versus basicness. Well, yeah, people don't spend much time in a swimming pool. Like if you had really sensitive skin and the air dried out and your skin got all just itchy and flaky, or like, you know, or the other way, if it got all greasy and rashy because it got too humid, okay? That's how much pH affects the skin of fish. It affects their ability to process nutrients in the water. Okay? And what stabilizes pH is photosynthesis. You want your pH to be about 8. Okay? In fresh water, you want it to be 7. You want it to be neutral. But salt water, it needs to be basic. It needs to be alkaline. It needs to be about 8, 8.4. Okay? If you have salt water that gets down to around 7.6, your sand, your live rock, anything made out of calcium carbonate, will begin to dissolve. And the calcium carbonate will actually buffer that salt water back up to a pH. It'll buffer that water back up to a pH of about 7.8. And then, you know, you need to add some essential elements to do a water change because your pH is too low. And all your fish are sitting there, man, why is my skin so dry? I just don't feel like I'm getting the proper nutrients in my skin. It's all flaky. And they'll just be irritated and stressed. And by having a sump with the light on at night while the light is off in the top tank, that keeps that pH from dropping because the plants aren't processing the minerals that are tied down in waste products, waste materials. Those plants take those and release the energy from them, absorb the energy from them, and release the good salts back into the water through their osmotic processes. And just like how the real ocean works, some of it's getting daytime, while some of it's getting nighttime. And current doesn't pay attention to the boundary. Okay, so let me think here. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments, y'all. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to do my my develop graphic thing, but I think maybe there's another benefit to a sump because there's still some blank space on that little blue graphic. So I'm gonna put another song on, and I'm gonna freaking microwave my coffee because it's cold. Maybe by the time I get back, I'll think of that missing benefit to the sump. And anybody's got a question, go ahead and ask it now.
I'm in my home down in New Orleans. Lord, I left my home down in New Orleans. Lord, I had nothing but trouble, you know what I mean. Oh, nothing is feeling can't seem to change. And I'm going back and forth there with some cold-hearted news. I got the cold-hearted blues. I'm feeling trouble down in me, or hurting nothing nobody could see. Fate intended something different for me. darling, let me be. Oh, something happened, mercy on me. Bye baby, I ain't ready to see. I'm coming to you, baby, with some more that I knew. I got the cold-hearted blues. Oh, please have mercy on me, baby, I got nothing to lose. I got the cold-hearted blues. Got the cold-hearted blues, yeah.
Alright, so I remembered the thing that was missing. Pretty soon I will be done editing the crappy graphic, and I will tell you the thing that we are missing. And then we can all move on with our lives. Okay. Come on, Crappy Graphic Studio. You can do it. Alright. So, the last thing on the list, the last obvious benefit of the sump choice, y'all, is plant lives matter. And here's the thing. Remember how I talked about surgeonfish? How they like to eat algae. Well, they like to eat macroalgae. Macroalgae are like caulerpas and seagrasses and seaweeds, like sargassum, Caulerpa prolifera, Chetomorpha, Codium. I love Codium. And now, okay, let me just get this graphic back up here. I want to show you kind of the light pattern that's going on here. We need to try to get going in your tank. Well, here, actually, I'll go ahead and just share it for screen after I get it the perfect length and width over here. All right, there we go. So, here you kind of have the basic light structure. Okay, that's gonna come from your lighting is gonna fall kind of like a pyramid would. Okay, so if you want to know how big of a lighting array you need, just kind of map it out in your head like that. Okay, so this area right here is going to be pretty much blank. You know, like no light's going to make it there. You're not going to have to worry about algae growing on the glass right there. Okay, that's fine. Now, if you look on this side, got a little more conservative. Okay, because again, that's the reason why this tank is the way it is because this light has to reach further down. So you need more of it, okay? And you need it to saturate. You need this light over here to penetrate way over to this side, savvy? You need it to go really deep and to illuminate a lot of stuff. So just having it from top down isn't going to look very good. So you need a lot of light for a deep tank, like a 29 gallon or taller than that. Now this little 20 gallon over here, it's nice and short. It's a full 6 inches shorter. That's what she said. Then the other one. So I can make the light just cover what I'm going to have in there. Okay. Just enough to where everything that I want lit is going to be very well lit. One thing I don't want is algae on my glass. Okay. So if you have a nice little compact setup that kind of squares evenly with the edges, like, okay. I have an example I can show you, a photo. Right here. Oh, look, you can, oh, look, my folders are showing. Eek. So that right there, that light, for a first setup, not for coral that needs a whole lot of light, just for fish and to see what live rock can do. See what kind of stuff grows out of the live rock while I have my first couple of fish. That's all I need right there. And in the bottom, I want plants. Okay? But don't get it twisted. Don't think because you want plants growing down here that you need a shit ton of light. You don't. You don't at all. Because those aren't the kind of plants you want growing. And that's the reason why you have this, is to grow good plants. You're not trying to grow shitty hair algae down here. You're trying to grow codium, gracilla, chetamorpha, macroalgae, big pretty plants. You can actually make this aquarium down here a pretty aquarium with nothing but plants in it. You can even have seahorses down there if you divide this off and have enough of an area between here and here. A couple little seahorses would be perfectly happy right there. Okay. And you have your seaweed just whipping in the wind right here. Some seahorses would prefer that divider not even be there and actually like current. It depends on the, like pygmy seahorses would prefer a little divided area. Okay. But a hippocampus seahorse would love a big ball of freaking uh, sargassum, or some chetamorpha with caulerpa, just roots hanging off of it like I used to have. Just sit there and spin around and pick off critters. Okay. But if you want seahorses, remember one thing. You need a brine shrimp hatchery. I recommend, if you're going to hatch brine shrimp, keep 2 rotating hatcheries. That way you don't waste eggs. And harvest each one every other day. And then you get shit tons of brine shrimp all the time. It's actually a really good way to feed a saltwater tank in general is with baby brine shrimp. But seahorses will eat the crap out of some baby brine shrimp. Anyways, very nutritious, very yummy. Apparently, I have to take their word for it. Not that fish can talk, but I don't eat fucking brine shrimp, so I guess we're at a standstill. Anyways, so down here, you're gonna have not reef level lighting. Okay, you don't want algae growing down there. Believe it or not, what most people, especially on YouTube, it doesn't seem, realize about chetamorpha, about like codium. Oh man, codium, especially. It doesn't really want that much light. It does well in very dim light. And, as long as it's consistent. But like if you have a light on during the night in that refugium, just a regular freaking Home Depot GE 6500 Kelvin fluorescent bulb in a little dome lamp thing. Have that going at night, and then just have the ambient light that makes it in there during the day. You will have a happy ball of chetamorpha. Okay? And by not having the excessive light, by not allowing that algae to build up down there, those plants grow more healthily. See, that algae, if the light's too bright, that algae can grow right on top of those macroalgae. That hair algae, that nasty, slimy shit, that can grow right on top of that stuff and kill it. Just like it can grow right on top of coral and kill it. But they need nutrients in excess and in excess to process those nutrients in excess. So if you have some lower light requiring plants processing those nutrients all the time, in the top where you have your bright lights, those nutrients won't be available for those nuisance algae, those hair algae and slime algae. So you'll have just as much as your very happy and eager surgeonfish or angelfish or whatever. Sometimes even a damsel, or sometimes even a clownfish will graze on some hair algae, depending on the algae, depending on how hungry they are. But what you'll wind up with is a reduced amount of algae in the entire system by having less light in the bottom tank than you do in the top. And while it might seem counterintuitive, I'm trying to grow all my plants down there, I'm going to have less light. It's more of the type of plant. You're trying to grow a different type of plant, so the shitty type of plant doesn't grow in your top plant, in your top tank. That makes sense? And well, like I said, that keeps your pH in check. They absorb the nitrates basically as As your fish poo disintegrates, as your excess food that doesn't get eaten by your cleanup crew disintegrates, and don't overdo it with the cleanup crew, man. That's like a whole nother video. It decomposes into ammonia. It decomposes into cat pee odor. That is not pleasant. Your live rock, the current going through your tank, that processes the ammonia. Usually almost immediately as soon as it's emitted. There's a bacteria that grows over where it's being, wherever it's decomposing, there's going to be a bacteria that consumes ammonia that grows right over that crap. And that bacteria forms little nasty spots that we call detritus. Okay? That bacteria poos another chemical called called nitrite. Nitrite is consumed by yet more bacteria that grows on your rocks, grows on your sand, all the surface area, all that little tiny little bumps and everything that make live rock so beneficial. That's because bacteria can grow all over. And the more you have your water moving around, the more it can process, the cleaner that water stays, the more that nitrite, which is a relatively harmful compound, gets processed into nitrate. Now, nitrate's a tricky one. All the live rock in the world aren't going to get rid of nitrate. You have to have water slowly moving through sand or through the dense core of big live rocks for anaerobic bacteria, that is bacteria that grows where there's no oxygen, okay, that doesn't like oxygen, that not only just doesn't use it, but doesn't like oxygen, will get outcompeted, will get, sick and die and succumb to attacks from other types of bacteria. Like literally, little bacterial wars will take place if your anaerobic bacteria gets exposed to oxygen. And it's very hard to get enough water to flow through anaerobic bacteria. But, as we discussed earlier, what's the other common use of nitrate? What do you usually think of when you think of nitrate? And another handy, interesting thing that fish waste and fish food directly breaks down into: phosphate. They are fertilizers. So this compound that irritates the skin of your fish can kill corals, can basically sterilize corals and fish over time, just completely stagnating their populations. All you need to get rid of it is plants, because it's fertilizer. It's got what plants craves. It's got electrolytes. No, it's got nitrates. That's what plants crave. And the circle of life is complete. Your plants in the bottom tank filter out the last remaining element of the fish poo and make that water just clean and perfect. And then it gets pumped back into your tank brand new, just as if it went through a marsh and got cleaned by plants there, just as if it went through the kelp forest or the sargassum seas. All those plants out there in the ocean, that's what keeps our entire planet alive. You may think that trees provide most of the oxygen that you breathe. You'd be wrong. Most of the oxygen that you breathe, most of the oxygen on this planet is made by the most prolific plant on this planet. That's Callirpa. the particular species that makes most of the oxygen by volume is called kelp. Those are the giant caulerpas with the huge leaves and the big floating balls, buoys, balls. So anyways, one last thing. Let's see here. That is very important is exactly how to set up the individual tank itself so you don't wind up creating more problems than you need. Okay. See, most people think I'm just going to buy as much live rock as I can put in there. I'm going to go buy whatever the pound per gallon is recommendation, or they want a whole wall of live rock, a hole across the back of the tank, and yeah, that's not how you want to do things. Okay. First of all, once you get your lighting right, once you get your temperature right, okay, and that's just a matter of purchasing reliable equipment that's in your price range. Okay. And, do a little research. Buy what other people are buying, buy what they say is good, buy what's cheap, do your best for that. That's, kind of to each their own. Tigers, they're cheap, they're not the best, but, I make do with them. Cobalt is the big popular thing nowadays, but that's, I'm old school, whatever. Lighting depends on whether you want to grow coral. You want to start out, get you a cheap eBay light. Okay, you can always move it to a bigger refugium later. You can always, keep it as your hospital tank light later. But just as important as these basic things, lighting and temperature, and oh man, the having the right lighting, having consistent lighting, having a timer. You want a timer. Okay, don't stress your fish out. Give them a timer. Like they need to know daytime's daytime, nighttime, nighttime. Fish can get really stressed out by not having a timer on their lights. Okay, cheap, fucking easy solution. Little click timer. That's all you need. Temperature. These are fish that are coming from the warmest part of the ocean. But as you know, one of the biggest problems with the ocean that's killing the ocean, that's killing the planet, is overheating. It's climate warming. Okay. Oceans warming is bad. But, there's a reason why these fish don't live off of your coast, because they're tropical fish. They don't like cold water. They can get diseases. Corals will just die in cold water. Just like they'll lose their zooxanthellae and bleach in hot water. They'll die in hot water. But what most people don't realize, even if they get that right, those are things you can look up. Those are, things that are by the numbers. You can see how much light you have. Okay. You can get a heater and set it to a temperature. You can get a thermometer and measure the temperature. But one thing that is definitely more art than science is current. And it determines where everything goes from there. Okay. Now, I suppose the most important factor when it comes to current is the machine that makes the current. So let me make a little machine that makes current. and I'm going to put it where I have mine in my 20 gallon, which is basically right here. Okay. And it has a little suction cup, and it blows the water this way. Okay. Now, I actually have this at an angle to where it's a bit more this way, but I can't draw that with fucking MS Paint, so we're SOL. But as you can see, the overall effect of this type of placement of what's called a power head or a wave maker, which, you know, for a 20-gallon tank should run you about $30 for a name brand one. $11 shipped for a Chinese one, you know. What you're trying to do here is make a current that is unobstructed, that flows as freely as possible, so that there flows as much current as possible for the amount of power that this thing consumes. Okay, so it's got a certain kilowatt rating or wattage rating. I'm just going to put kilowatts on there because that's just what I felt like drawing with my little stupid graphics thing. But anyways, you want the water flowing, you know, it's gonna come over here and it's gonna create some turbulence, but it's gonna wind up getting pushed that way. Okay. And it's gonna do the same thing over here. And these little turbulent areas are gonna form high pressure spots that help this water right here along its little way. Water here along its little way. And it's all gonna wind up curving back around to where the power head is to begin with. And then getting sucked in and cast asunder. I mean, and blown back that way again. Yeah. So, when you take your live rock and you just fill up the whole back wall with it, okay, what you're doing is blocking off all that current. And you know, you can have multiple layers of rock, you know, on top of each other, whatever. Okay. Nice big tall rock wall on the back. Looks pretty, but as far as maintenance goes, it's a nightmare. Because see, when that current stagnates, because it gets bottlenecked back here. Oh, yeah. Do this right. It's going to get bottlenecked back here after being drawn in here. Okay. There's going to be a bunch of it going this way, not having anywhere to go. And then underneath these rocks, all along back here, going to be dead zones. big, ugly, detritus-filled dead zones. Okay? And that's where that ammonia-creating bacteria is just going to build up. And you'd think, oh, well, that's just, shit that's going to be there anyways. Well, if it doesn't have a place to stagnate, there's more different things that have an opportunity to eat it. Okay, so if your fish food, even your fish poo, is floating around the tank, there's all kinds of stuff that might reach out and grab it. Okay? And the longer it stays floating around the tank, the longer it's just going to be available for even things in the water. Even things that are floating around in the water with it might attach to it and eat it. Algae might grow on it. It might decompose in the water, never having settled anywhere, and be rapidly consumed by highly aerobic bacteria. But if you have a wall of rock on the back, you are not going to be having much flow going this way. You're not going to be having any flow growing across your reef. All the poor morals around here, they're just stagnant. This fan, you're going to have to blow it. You're going to have to move this fan back here. You're going to have this fan blowing right at the reef. Then you're going to wind up with one spot on the reef with a whole big strong current, and the rest of the reef, not so much. And then, what are you going to do with all the sand that's in the front of the tank? You're going to have to buy another power head. And you're going to have two. And you're going to have twice the electricity. And you're going to have to spend twice as much money. Fuck all that. Fuck all that. Fuck all that. Fuck the wall of rock in the back. That's not how you want to do this. Look at that beautiful circular pattern. Have you ever stirred up a bathtub? It stays going for a while. Stir up a rectangular pitcher, rectangular Tupperware container, anything rectangular. You stir it up, and it goes round. The current maintains for quite some time. Okay, and it's nice and even. And it doesn't go quite as long as if it was in a round pot or a round bowl, but this is a sustainable shape. This has efficient qualities to it. And in fact, I've even gone as far as to streamline it a little by just building up the sand in the corners just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just in the beginning. Just to help it all flow around real well together. Okay? But here's how you do your rock. You don't build the wall in the back. And you don't spend a lot of money either. Okay? Fish can't swim in rock. They can swim through a rock. They can swim around a rock. But the more rock you have, okay, short of just a hiding spot, just enough rock to make the fish feel comfortable, okay, the more rock you have, the less space that fish has to swim and hunt. The more rock you have, the more rock that fish's food is going to get stuck in some rock instead of in its belly. So when you go and buy your rock for your 10 gallon, 20 gallon tank, just buy 4 or 5 pieces. Okay? Just 4 or 5 pieces. And when you put them in there, you put them right in the middle. But you don't start right there. You don't make a weird eyeball. No. You start over here. Okay. You buy yourself 3 little pieces. Little, little, like not even a pound. 3 little pieces. And then you get yourself one nice, oh, wait. Excuse me. 3 little pieces and one nice big piece. And you elevate that one on top of the other pieces. Okay? So now you have free-flowing water all around the reef. You don't have detritus hiding in the back. Okay? See, that's a big avenue that fish can go along and hunt the pods and hunt the critters. Okay? There's no critter that wants to just live along the back glass. But there's plenty of critters that'll want to live underneath a nice open cave underneath the middle of the rocks right there. You can get yourself a serpent star. If this is sitting too low for a fish to swim through, a serpent star sitting underneath this will make for a nice little aquarium. But with anything, he'll just sit there all day, and anything that would dirty up the tank, he'll just grab it and pull it under his little rock. Meanwhile, the flow is not interrupted. Any little corals that you have sitting on the edges here. Let's see what color we're gonna make them. Purple and yellow. How about that? Mardi Gras Jew color corals, Jewish Mardi Gras corals. They are all gonna have equal access to current. See, that current is flowing right by them. They're loving it. It's cool. All that current, feeding them, keeping them clean, keeping them healthy, no stagnant spots, no mountains of fish poo back behind rocks. Now, if you have a fish that you don't want, guess what? There's only one rock to take out. You can catch that fish because these other 3 rocks are on the sand, and that's the only hiding places under that one big rock. Okay? This rock, having as much water moving around it through it as it has, will maximize efficiency as far as filtration goes. There won't be stagnant spots that aren't filtering, aren't processing waste. Okay? And, man, that's like, when I say I have too much rock in my 20 gallon, it's because I have too much rock in my 20 gallon. And that flow pattern right there is what is being hindered. See, like, my, the amount of rock I have in my 20 gallon is about like so. So, there's not quite as much flow around the edges there. But it's generally along this principle. So it does okay. But it would be better. It would be much better off if I had, the other tanks I was planning on having by now until this floor wasn't going to hold up for more tanks. But it was all cool when I had coral growing all over the shed. Then I had, once I passed the 1 fish per gallon mark, and some other problems occurred. Yeah. Now it's just become a bit of an algae farm. But right now, actually, I have chaetomorpha, not chaetomorpha, codium that was growing in my caves around here. Now finally starting to, now that I have like my phosphates under control, now it's starting to grow on top of all these rocks. So it's winding up being like a giant planet aquarium up there in my top reef tank now. Still got a lot of hair algae to deal with, but the codium's starting to grow back. So yeah, there it is. So if I was to set this up as a standalone or otherwise aquarium, I would simply run the return pump, this one power head, this one wave maker, and the only thing I would add to it is a Rio Nano protein skimmer. It's a $35 little protein skimmer deal that comes off of eBay. Okay. And it just has like a little tube that feeds it, and then a little overflow area on the other side. And in here is the protein skimmer area. And it's got a collection cup that sits on top that easily detaches, and you can dump it out when the protein gets all filled up, right? And that's $35. And it takes a little bit of finagling to get it to work just right. But I think for $35, it's kind of hard to fucking beat. And, you know, $20 wave maker, $35 protein skimmer, $25 light, $20 aquarium, $10 sump. You know, it adds up, but it doesn't have to add up as much as you think. It's not that much beyond what a freshwater setup is. Now, you buy yourself one little bag of quote live sand from Carib Sea, and then buy some processed oregonite, which is not from the ocean. But I mean, buying live sand doesn't really hurt anything because there's plenty of freaking sand out there. It's not something that's in short supply. If anything, there can be too much sand even. Parrotfish are pooing it out all the time. Anyways, so what's that? About $150. Maybe $200 with the stand if you build it yourself. And that is a nice, fairly decent size tank that you can keep, you know, an increasing complexity of corals in it once you get more and more used to it. The rocks, if you don't have stagnant spots, the rocks will filter the water. Okay. And the plants will filter the chemicals that they leave behind. Plants in your bottom tank. And the only thing you'll have to worry about is the nutrient, the vitamin trace element depletion that protein skimmer and those plants and all the different little things that grow with their little mineral requirements You know, they'll deplete all the nutrients in the water slowly, okay, at different rates depending on how fast it grows. You know, you see your rocks turn pink with coralline algae, and then suddenly it stops. Well, they've run out of calcium, they've run out of magnesium. So do a water change. Or decide, what I think what people should do is just decide how much they can put into it. Okay, decide how often you can do your water changes. Stick to that and see the result. That's the tank you're going to have. Don't aim for a goal and beat yourself up because you don't have purple rocks like the people with the big expensive reef tanks. Stick to your regimen and see what that grows. Because for every different person's style of upkeep, for every different salinity, for every different temperature level that you wind up keeping your aquarium at, there's going to be a different little type of sponge, different little type of critter, different little type of copiapod that takes dominance in your tank. Your tank's going to be different from anybody else's. It's going to have a different little life form base than anybody else's. And you don't need even rocks from the ocean to get a different lifescape, a different ecosystem going on. You can take a few dry rocks and take one live rock from somebody else's tank, and there could be eggs, little cyst termite from copepods and from corals and from sponges, little dormant critters, or even little unhealthy, underdeveloped critters. They get into your tank, and your tank's exactly what they want, and they start coming out of the woodwork. And you took the same rock from their tank and you grew different stuff out of it and yours. So it's just, you know, it's a never-ending mystery. And, you know, filtration, it's not conventional. If you're thinking in terms of screening fish poo from the water, that's useful to a point when you just have a whole lot of fish and you want to feed them a whole lot of food, okay? But if you want this Zen experience, if you want an ecosystem, a good rule is to not buy a lot of fish to begin with. Try to keep your fish purchases to an absolute minimum and let the rest of the ecosystem thrive. And then the fish that you do choose will be really, really happy and healthy. And they'll look more beautiful than when you got them from the store. And that's a rewarding experience for itself. All right, so I guess now back to the questions. All in all, keeping saltwater aquarium, one key rule. Just like most other hobbies, don't be a moron. Learn the basics. Don't spend too much. Don't spend all your money. Get your feet wet. See if it's something that you really like to do. And, you know, if all you got is a 10-gallon or a 20-gallon, if you decide not to do it, what have you really lost? I'm sure you can find somebody who wants to, you know, either take it off your hands and try for themselves, or you know, put some hamsters in there, but put some goldfish in there. You know, it wouldn't be overkill for a simple little freshwater setup if that's what you wind up deciding to do. So, I know Mr. Neville had a fun question earlier. Let's see here. I don't know. Yeah. Is recreational fishing animal cruelty?
No.
My wife says no. Dear, do you have an open pack of cigarettes in there? Don't. Okay.
Is that our last pack?
No, there's another pack in there. out of gesturing sticks. Wait. Oh. Yeah, look on the back of the couch. Okay, so let me see if I can just kind of dictate some ground rules as far as what is and what is not animal cruelty when it comes to fishing. If you're out there fishing just to catch stuff and put it back, just to say you caught it, that's cruelty. Okay? If you're out there fishing for a type of food fish, even knowing that there are sport fish that you don't want to catch, but there are some fish out there that you're going to catch, you're going to take them home and eat, and you catch fish that you're not supposed to catch and you put those back, that's kindness. You know, I'm sure that fish is very grateful that you did not eat it. So you can't, you know, it's pretty cut and dry which one is which. If you're out there hunting for food, you catch a fish, you throw it back, you're saving its life. If you're just out there being a dick and catching fish to say, "Ooh, I caught this big fish, let me take a picture," and then throw it back, you're pretty much just being a dick. And it's kind of like with hunting. If you come from an impoverished area, you know, you live way out in the country, it's more convenient for you to go hunt than it is for you to go stock up on meat at the grocery store. You stock your freezer up one way or the other, you're still stocking your freezer up. If you're going out there to hunt just to mount something on your wall just for bragging rights, go sharpen a stick. That's all I'm saying. You know, build your own bow and arrow. Then I'll be impressed. That's all I'm saying. Fight that motherfucker with a spear. Fight a buck with a spear. Then you can mount it on your wall. And you'd be like, yeah, I fought that motherfucker with a spear. Anyways. So, I hope that answered your question, though. Anyways. Calerpa. And I believe it's CAUL. Calerpa. CAULERPA. Yeah, that's. I've messed with a lot of different flow patterns. I mean, a lot of different 30 fucking years, many different tanks, lots of flow patterns. That's the best one. Just here, let me go ahead and save the image and put it up there again. There we go. This right here. It's headache prevention right there. And if you want a little more live rock, just like my tank, between the plants and your pump, just make a little pile of live rock. And not having any fish or predators down there, that's where you put all your pods. Then when they breed, all their little planktonic critters wind up getting sucked in the overflow pump, but not too much. See, you only want a certain percentage of them sucked up and spewed back into the tank, because not all of them survive for starters. You know, it's freaking It's like, you know, throwing rats at a fan. Some of them are going to make it through. Sometimes you're going to hear a squeak. That's the first thing I could think of. Throwing rats at a fan, dear. I think she fell asleep. No, I just confused her. No. The moment of silence, I realized that it was just a look on her face forming. Like the copepods, the rate at which they make it back through the return pump, that's kind of like throwing rats through a fan. You know? Sometimes they're eating cheese, sometimes you just hear a squeak. That's it. All right, so also asked about human edible seaweeds. That's you know, I'd look more into that. You know, I'm from the South. I wouldn't even know where the hell to get edible seaweed around here. It's like a California thing. as far as everybody here is concerned, that's a West Coast thing. But yeah, I wanna at least attempt to taste some of that crap and see if I like it. I'm open to it. Just haven't got around to it. You know, we don't exactly eat healthy or much at all. So growing fish for personal consumption. How can it be wrong? It's just like being a herder, you know. And I would say, just like being a herder, make sure you give a tenth to the needy if you're able to provide for yourself in such a blessed manner. Asian cuisine, seaweed. Neville. So I'm a dick. Yep, you just need to find one that you like to eat, and you can stop being a dick. Yeah, and then there's some species that they have to be, you know, like when you go out to catch them, you're required to catch them of a certain size, or you can't keep them. So, you know, there's that. That's actually a common case around here in sport fishing. I forget what the rules are. It's been a while since I had a fishing license. I used to like fishing. But yeah. What you could do, and I'm not sure as far as the legalities go, you know, you'd have to contact your local wildlife and fisheries or whatever the Australian equivalent is down there. Is start a pond or a chlorine-free pool, and if there's some fish you like to sport fish, take them home. I'm not saying go and fish them again out of your pond. That would be cruel. But, you know, rather than putting an injured fish back, if you don't get a clean hook, take it home, keep it as a pet. Why not? Like I said, fish are assholes, you know? And the reason why you don't take wild animals home is because they can be a danger to you. All fish can't be a danger to you, you know? Like, it's, you know, there's some animals that are better off in their own environment. A fish is just randomly surviving. chances are the fish that you're catching anyways. There's very few fish that I would think that you'd ever encounter that are like rare fish that you shouldn't be taking home, you know. And maybe even, you know, maybe you get lucky. Maybe you wind up with a male and a female, and they wind up spawning in your pond. And you wind up suddenly, what the fuck is this 1,000 baby fish doing in my shit? You can net all those, take them back and release them into the wild. Ah, now you got something good going. The tasty ones are easy to catch, so I take it you prefer the ones that are more of a challenge. Well, then accept the additional challenge of how to prepare them in a tasty manner, or the challenge of gaining nutrition from something that's not that tasty. Yeah, there are a lot of possible solutions to the problem. Yeah, that's another thing too. You never know, as far as the fish that get away, you never know if you just rip their face off and that's how they got away. But, you know, I suppose you'd wind up pulling up fish face on your lure. Just something I always wondered about when I was fishing. All right, so question to sump or not to sump. Question to saltwater or not to saltwater. The question is, for most people, that winds up being answered no in their minds, and they wind up avoiding it, not giving it a chance. Is there an easy way? Do I have to use all those test kits? Do I have to, like, do just never-ending amounts of research just to keep a saltwater aquarium? No. Is there an easy way? Hell yeah. I wasn't that fucking smart when I was 8 years old. And I've been keeping saltwater tanks since I was 8 years old. Okay? If you are smarter than a 5th grader, in fact, you don't even need to be smarter than a 5th grader. I had a 4th grader keeping a saltwater tank for a little while. 2.5 gallon Nano tank. She just got tired of it. She was keeping it okay for a while. And, you know, what's it worth to you? What's it worth to really learn and understand 70% of your environment? What's it worth to understand what pollution really means? When they say global warming, when they say overfishing, what's it worth for those to no longer be abstract concepts? And then, what's it worth to have a non-political way you can share those concepts with others? Catch them completely off guard. Get them into the hobby. Make them realize this stuff without even asking them to turn off Fox News. Oh yeah, they just want a pretty fish tank. And they start to learn about it. Nitrates and phosphates? You mean like fertilizers? Oh shit. hobby worth having, I think. All right, so I guess that's a broadcast. And lighting, temperature, current, evaporative top off. Oh, I forgot to talk about evaporative top off. Does evaporative top off even need to be explained? Shit evaporates. Add more water. You need fresh water. Distilled water from the store, filtered, with multiple types of filtration. Or, like I said, get your freshwater jug and basically mark yourself an evaporation line. Most people, if they have one tank, they use it as the black rim of the tank. But in the bottom tank, you might actually need to use a thermometer or an algae scraper, or just keep track of the level in the bottom tank. As it gets lower, you add fresh water. That keeps your salinity even. It's probably the hardest part. Just adding fresh water. That's all you do. You just add fresh water. It's at the same level, then the salinity is the same. It's just basic proportional chemistry, dilution. And your water changes, takes care of everything else. Filtration, you want to keep that natural. Other than that, don't be a moron, and you should be fine. Water change excess can be used as compost if it's a freshwater tank, Maximo, or if you're growing some sort of saltwater tolerant type species. But the salts is where that's going to go wrong for you. I do wonder, however, if there's some way to make biodiesel over time out of large volumes of decomposed, because you have some pretty noxious chemicals in there. Anyways. Thanks for the question. It's a perfectly good one right there. Maximo had asked basically if the water change refuse, if the old dirty water can be used as gardening compost. But yeah, salt water is salt water, and salt water kills most freshwater dependent plants. Anything saltwater would benefit greatly from it because it'd be just the type of dirty stuff it would need to grow. Yep, and that's it. So thanks for watching, everybody. Y'all have a good one. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for your questions and your comments. Please click the like button and check your subscription. Make sure you are subscribed. Thank you for your donations to the channel name at Gangster Courier Service or something like that. Y'all take it easy. There. Got it.
The way it treated me too many times before. Don't you know you love them, baby, too? Oh, you know I want you there, I wanna be right there with you. I know I gotta keep you by my life the day I die. yours and mine are walking in the sand. Oh, baby, you know it's fine. But now you done and piss me off. You ain't done something you shouldn't have done. Baby, I'm mad. I'm going on.